So with us now is Jason Brodsky, Policy Director of United Against Nuclear Iran. Thank you very much for being here again with us. So, Jason, Ukraine is now a testing ground for Iranian drones, and really no major reaction from anywhere.
Yes, I think we have seen increased attacks by Russia on Ukrainian cities using these lethal weapons. We have also heard reports that Iranian surface-to-surface missiles may be transferred to Ukraine, and this is all in an EU candidate country. There have been a few piecemeal sanctions from the EU and the UK. It's a step in the right direction, but there's a lot left to do to further isolate Iran.
Yeah, you know, that word again, sanctions, again, not really happening.
I think that it's also important to put this into perspective. Last week, there were 2 rounds of sanctions levied by the EU on Iran, and that relates to its human rights abuses and the drone proliferation. Contrast that to if you asked us 2 weeks ago, there would have been only 2 rounds of sanctions levied on Iran since 2013, when the Joint Plan of Action was inked. So that difference and that sanctions architecture is really lacking in Europe.
Meanwhile, the nuclear program in Iran is moving ahead.
Yes, I think right now events have really overtaken the JCPOA talks. We have Iran becoming a co-combatant, really, with Russia, committing war crimes by supplying lethal weaponry in an EU candidate country. And if there's one situation that may really shift the calculations in Europe, it's this. So we'll have to see how this plays out in the weeks and months ahead.
Ukraine's president had just had an interview or a speech in Israeli conference here just short time ago. And he said to Israelis, watch out, the Russians will aid Iran in their nuclear program against you. Is this something that you see happening?
I think that it's something we all have to be on guard about. I don't think that Russia wants to see Iran get a nuclear weapon, but I think aiding Iran covertly is something definitely we have to keep an eye on. But I would also say that Ukraine's president's comments about criticizing Israel and blaming Israel for the transfer of arms between Iran and Russia really was overdoing it. These trend lines and the deepening partnership between Moscow and Tehran have been occurring over years, irrespective of Israeli decisions. And quite frankly, they're more of a function of the singular focus of the international community on Iran's nuclear program rather than its missile and drone proliferation.
Yeah, well, today Iran said it arrested 10 people suspected of working with the Mossad. We hear this every now and then. Any details about that?
I think we have to view these announcements skeptically. Iran is trying to discredit the Iranian people who are protesting in the streets for an overthrow of this regime, and it tends to make these announcements in order to build a narrative that these are foreign-engineered protests.
Right. So back to the nuclear talks, whatever remains out of this, where are we standing, actually?
Right now, the U.S. claims that it is focused on the Iranian protests and Iran's supply of lethal weaponry to Russia. But the reality is the nuclear deal that was negotiated in 2015 is getting more obsolete by the day. And Iran's supply of Russia with drones and perhaps surface-to-surface missiles really highlights the dangers of trying to revive the nuclear deal, because under its terms and under the UN Security Council Resolution 2231, we have an incredibly shrinking international arms limitations on Iran. The arms embargo expired, which provided a Russia legal cover to receive these Iranian drones. And now we have the restrictions on Iran's missile program expiring next year under that same resolution. So this is quite worrying.
And with the Russians sort of out of picture now because they are involved with the war in Ukraine and the West is sort of boycotting Russia, any chance for any agreement in the future?
I do not think that one is in the offing imminently. I also think that given the current protests in Iran, this is going to encourage Iran's decision makers and shapers to be very risk averse because they don't want to open themselves up to compromising on one issue, which will beget expectations to compromise on other issues. And so Iran has a long history of doubling down and focusing inward when we have these kinds of protests.
Okay. Jason Brodsky, thank you very much.
Thank you.